Two people standing on a sidewalk, both of them lonely. Both of them have been lonely for a long time. One of them says, "How's your week been?" The other one says, "Yeah, good, busy. You?" "Same. Crazy weather, huh?" "Yeah, wild." And then both of them walk away, and both of them think, "I wish that had been more than that." And both of them assume the other person wanted exactly what they got. Both of them are wrong. This is not a video about how small talk is bad. Small talk is not bad. Small talk is how strangers verify that they are safe with each other before going anywhere else. This is a video about what happens after, because most conversations never go anywhere else. Most conversations stay in the safe entryway. Both people standing politely at the door, never invited in, never inviting. And the reason is not that nobody wants depth. The reason is that everyone in the conversation has made the same wrong prediction about everyone else. That prediction has a name. It has been measured, and it is killing the closest relationships you could have had. In 1997, a psychologist named Arthur Aaron sat down to do something that sounded ridiculous. He wanted to manufacture closeness between strangers, on purpose, in a laboratory, in 45 minutes. He took two people who had never met. He sat them across from each other. He handed them a list of 36 questions. The questions started shallow. Given the choice of anyone in the world, whom would you want as a dinner guest? Then they got slower. When did you last cry in front of another person? Then they got tender. Of all the people in your family, whose death would you find most disturbing, and why? 45 minutes later, many of the pairs reported feeling closer to their stranger than to people they had known for years. One pair eventually married. The questions are not magic. The escalation is. A more disturbing finding came 13 years later, in 2010, from a researcher named Matthias Mell at the University of Arizona. He gave 79 people a small audio recorder to wear for 4 days. It sampled their conversations randomly, 30 seconds every 12.5 minutes, without telling them which moments would be captured. Then, he and his team categorized every snippet. Small talk in one column, substantive talk in the other. When they correlated those numbers against each person's self-reported well-being, the pattern was sharp. The happiest people had roughly twice as much substantive conversation as the unhappiest. They had less small talk, much less. The single biggest predictor of well-being was not how many friends you had. It was not how much time you spent with them. It was how deep the conversations went when you did. But this raises the obvious question. If depth makes us happier, and shallow conversations leave us empty, why do we keep choosing shallow? In 2022, 3 researchers at the University of Chicago, Michael Cardis, Amit Kumar, and Nicholas Epley, ran the study that answers it. They paired up strangers in a lab and asked them to have deep conversations, real ones. When was the last time you cried in front of another person? What is one thing you would want to do before you die? Before the conversation, they asked both people to predict, how awkward will this be? How interested will the other person be in your answers? How connected will you feel at the end? Both people predicted the conversation would be uncomfortable. They predicted the other person would not really care. They predicted the connection would be shallow. Then, they had the conversation. Afterward, both people reported it was less awkward than they predicted. The other person had been more interested than they predicted, and the connection had been deeper than they predicted. Every single time. The researchers called this the deep conversation paradox. We systematically underestimate how much other people want to know us. So, we offer them weather, and they offer us weather back, and we both walk away thinking the other person didn't want more. Both of you wanted more. Neither of you believed the other one did. This is the small, invisible tragedy that plays out at every dinner table, every office kitchen, every group chat, every reunion, every first date that does not become a second one. You are surrounded by people who would meet you, one layer deeper, if anyone would just go first. And every one of them is waiting for somebody else to do it. Here is the part the research has been quietly clear about for 50 years. Depth, in conversation, has to be unilateral first. One person has to mention the thing they almost did not mention. The thing at work that is not working. The book they keep meaning to write. The fact that their father has been on their mind. The slightly too honest answer to a slightly too honest question. The other person, in almost every case, meets them there. Psychologists call this self-disclosure reciprocity. It has been demonstrated in laboratory after laboratory since the 1970s. Vulnerability is contagious. Honesty pulls honesty out of the room. But someone has to go first, and the person waiting for someone else to go first is you. And it is also them. There is one more piece of this, and it is the piece almost nobody knows. A psychologist named Shelley Gable at the University of California, Santa Barbara, studied what happens when one person shares good news with another person. She watched the response. She found 4 ways the listener can react. Active constructive. They ask follow-up questions. They amplify your excitement. They want to know more. Passive constructive. Oh, that's nice. A small smile, a nod. They move on. Active destructive. They immediately raise a concern. Are you sure? Have you thought about the downside? Passive destructive. They change the subject. They talk about themselves. Gable tracked these patterns inside long-term relationships. Only one of the 4 predicted whether the relationship would last and stay close. It was active constructive. It was the only one that made the speaker feel actually seen. The other 3, to the person who shared, felt almost identical to no response at all. This means that even when someone goes first, if the person on the other side does not amplify what they hear, the moment closes. You can be the person who keeps it open. So, here is what you actually do. You go first. You mention the thing 1 layer deeper than the weather. Not your whole life story. 1 small, honest sentence. The book on your mind. The thing you have been wrestling with. The slightly true answer instead of the smooth one. And then, when they answer, and they will, you do the one thing that almost nobody does. You ask the next question. You make them tell you more. You amplify the part of their answer that lit them up. You let them feel the rare, almost foreign sensation of being asked about, in detail, by another human being. That is the architecture. Go first, then ask. There is a finding from end-of-life research that has been replicated across cultures, across income levels, across every demographic studied. The most common deathbed regret is not, "I wish I had worked harder." That is a distant second. The most common deathbed regret is some version of, "I wish I had connected more deeply with the people I loved. I wish I had been less afraid of the conversation that mattered." That conversation is available to you right now, with the person you live with the friend you keep meaning to call, with the coworker you have eaten lunch beside for 4 years and still cannot describe. All of them want more than the weather. Almost all of them are waiting for you to start.